it just.
Very simple.
I haven't done it the only one this way. Oh yeah, I use that.
He did it like several times.
Hey, while we wait to start, call out, because I overheard something. Call out something in Ruby or Rails that you're still confused about. Come on, I overheard somebody saying I'm still confused.
Automatically generated rules methods.
Automatic? Oh, okay, yep.
Like user pass.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Where do they come from and how to use it?
I just want to make a list. What else? What are you still confused by in Ruby or Rails? Huh?
Redirect.
Redirect. Okay, good. Anybody else?
The exact syntax of the root file.
Okay.
Like the basic stuff is easy to
Yeah.
like resource, blah blah blah, do other
Yeah.
things, but then when you start getting into match,
Yeah.
like I think I struggle with how to use
Okay.
match
So
effectively.
fancier routes with
Yeah.
match particularly.
How to really get into that
Right.
nitty gritty stuff.
Because there are two. I won't start answering actually first. I saw yes.
What words in Rails are reserved for other things?
Ooh, that's a. There are really very few words that are reserved, although there are words you can use, like names for things which can cause conflicts. I don't have a list.
Well, I just mean like there are some things when you're writing controllers, like
Yeah.
certain paths to things that Rails will already have a shortcut for.
Oh, I see. So that's kind of what Nick was asking about as well. The paths that are sort of automatically come out of. Because that's the big thing. One of the big things that routes do is create all these free methods to paths. So is that kind of what you were getting at?
Well, I just don't know if there's like a thing that I know how to do, like if I know how to generate a path to just from, I don't know which things I should expect to find and which things I should expect to have to make.
That's a hardly formulated question. But I'll say this: a path to anything that you care about within Rails is most likely going to come out of routes. So if there's a path you want that's not there, instead of hardwiring it in text, go figure out or ask me to help you figure out how to write a route for it, and you'll get the method for it. Anything else that you're still sort of not sure about, don't quite understand in Rails or Ruby? Anybody else? Okay. I just want to make a list. I'll see if I, yes.
We're using or like you were suggesting to use Minitest
Yeah.
instead of the
RSpec, yeah.
And so what should we use for user interface testing? Like in the tutorial they were using Capybara.
I think they both use the same for that, Capybara.
Capybara.
Yeah.
So they also use
Yeah, and you don't have to do anything special. I mean, they confuse you because generally that stuff shows up, and if you weren't told that it's called Capybara, it looks just like it's part of RSpec. It's just a new set of verbs.
So we use Capybara.
Yeah, you use Capybara. Yeah. Any other questions that are still stumping you, that you're not sure about yet, that you're still confused by? Okay. Yes.
Oh, was like the use delete and destroy?
Yeah.
Like what it means by like freeze? Because
yeah, you can ignore
like,
that for now.
okay.
Yeah, you can ignore freezing for now. Anything else? Any basic things? Nope. Okay. What's the one I thought I overheard? It was not listed for you guys. Oh well. Okay. Good. So I think we're more or less all here. So today we're going to talk about how to plan the rest of the semester, and I think I'm probably going to spend.
Are you recording?
I am. Thank you. Everybody asks me whether I'm recording, but nobody actually watches the recordings because I have view pants on. But that's okay. I even invested $40 in a new mic to get better sound. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it will. Okay, it's supposed to turn red if I overload it. We'll see if it's better. Let me check something now that I think about it. Yeah, omnidirectional. Okay, so what we're going to do when we're done talking about this stuff is each team is going to come up, plug in, and show their paper prototype. I see Joe's not here because he's probably trying to get it up on the site. I don't see it. Huh? Where is he? Oh,
here.
okay. He came, he disappeared. Okay. So the big thing right now, and I've harped this to death, is narrowing your focus, right? I mean, I'm sure each of your product reviewers said this. think of cutting a slice through from top to bottom of your product, and one of the teams, Vaporator, just said they don't even have a login as part of their minimum viable product, which I think makes sense, because if the most exciting thing about your product is to show how you configure e-cigarette kits, then it makes sense to spend most of your energy there, because that's going to be the most compelling thing. So think about what the most compelling thing is in your product, and we're going to see you cut at that, and then think about how to get that built in the next, I think it is, 6 weeks? Whatever it is, 6, 7 weeks. And basically the way I've broken out the time, and you see that I've redone the lab section here, is that all the remaining labs are going to be sort of the end and beginning of the next sprint. The sprints will go for 1 week, and what I'm going to want you to try to do today is to take your minimum viable product as the last sprint, sprint 7, let's say, or 6, and then work back from there and think really hard about all the things you need to do to get there, and technical things, build this, build that, implement this, implement that, and be ruthless. Products are late most often, not because people did not estimate the work to be done correctly. Most often they're late because they forgot whole massive pieces of work that needed to be done at all. And so the estimate might have had 10 tasks on them. They estimated those 10 tasks correctly, but really the project needed 30 tasks. And so the trick at this stage is to try to be comprehensive. Just every little thing has to be done, and then divide it up among the team members. This is going to change. I mean, it's kind of difficult to forecast the future. It'll change as you work through it. Don't worry about that. The main thing is for you to understand whether it's feasible or how it'll be feasible for you to get to your MVP by May 1st, which is what the product showcase is going to be. Okay?
So that's the,
Yes?
I feel like we're slashing the work into.
Slashing the work
because
into?
the original plan was not to have an MVP by May, it's to have a whole product.
Excuse me while I tell my lace, and I think of a clever answer to your question. I think the first goal is to build a product. Product is the wrong word. Build a piece of software that is a rich and robust implementation of a vision of a product. Now we have very little time, and if our goal is to have something that we can show off on the showcase day, then it's very important to set that goal clearly and go for it. If you want to do more, if you can do more, that's awesome. Obviously, some of you will do more, but I want to make sure that we sort of have lock in our gains and make very sure we have that. And then you sort of repeat the process. If it feels like you can get to your MVP, I don't want to see a plan that says we will get to the MVP plus 50% by May 1st. I want to see a plan that says we can get to MVP by April 10th. And then between April 10th and May 1st, we'll do the plus 50%. Okay? So make sure that by May 1st, which is when the showcase is, you're going to have something really interesting to demo. Something that works, that's not fake, and that showcases the interesting part of the product. If you believe you can do a lot more, excellent, but then organize your work so you get to your MVP April 10th or whatever, and then use the remaining time for the extra stuff. Okay? Okay. So the next bit is I tried really hard looking at all the products and thinking about all the bits of work that I could think of, big chunks, that would have to be done. Okay? This is not comprehensive, and nor is it in any kind of order. It is, but it's kind of a vague order. I guess chunk number 0 is deciding what the thing will do. I mean, we've had conversations with several of the teams where we discovered that there was a paper prototype, but it was not really specific enough. And people had gone on and started implementing HTML and CSS before really they had decided what they were going to do. And while you can fake that for a while, you almost always get into trouble. So really step 0 should be decide on the views you're going to have, and decide on the roots. In fact, what I recommended this morning talking to the trade assistant guys is to think of it this way. A screen as detailed as you want. It has a name, like configuration, and it has a root that gets you to it. It has a name and a root, /config/show, or whatever it is. Every single page you do, you should be able to draw it, give it a name, and give it a URL. If there's a button in there, you should be able to call it out and give it a name, well, not a name, but a URL. By doing a URL, I'm forcing you to think about the actual root, config.save, whatever. Okay? And by forcing you to think about the root, you now have a hint about how to do your roots that are RB. You have a hint about how to organize your controllers, and you have a hint about how to organize your views. If you can't say this about a view or about part of your paper prototype, you shouldn't really start coding. Okay? Because this is easier than coding. And if you can't do this, don't start coding. And you sometimes have to go do a little experiment to see if it will work or not, to see if you really understand how a certain feature works in Rails, whatever, that's cool. But, and the other thing, of course, is to make sure your teammates all agree. So you don't have two people at the same time doing the kit configuration because they didn't talk to each other, or one person spends, 4 hours implementing the rules page and discovers that the other two people didn't want to do it that way at all. So, a page, a name for it, so you can all refer to it. You can all say, oh, we're talking about the rules configuration page. Everybody knows what you're talking about, and a root. All links and buttons all have roots, okay? So that's a really good exercise to force yourselves to know what you're doing. And it's always easier to do it on paper before you do it in code. Okay. Another chunk of work is identify what gems you're going to need and learn them. Now, there's a million gems that we've talked about, and before you start building something custom, always look for a gem or ask me or Amin to help you find a gem. There often will be something for that. So that's one thing to do. Obviously, database up and running. Let's talk about the database. Reminder, of course, that you have the migrations in Rails. Once you decide on the schema, you can use the migrations to create the database. And when you do RakeDB migrate, that's when the database gets created. If you're running on Heroku, which you will do later on, you're going to have to get your code onto the cloud, onto the Heroku cloud, and it's going to have to do a RakeDB migrate to create the database over there. Okay? Now, it turns out that, as we talked weeks ago, there's many different models of database. The database you use on your computer, on your laptops, by default, is SQLite, SQLite 3. And it has the advantage of not needing a server. It just runs there on your computer and puts a file in your directory. It's very lightweight. It turns out that when you do production on Heroku, but in general, you wouldn't use SQLite for your database. You would use either MySQL or Postgres or something else. Some of you have gone ahead and tried or decided to configure your development environment for Postgres, which is perfectly fine, but you are incurring a little bit more startup time on Rails because it's a bigger, more complicated system. The trade-off there is, if there's anything special in Postgres you want to use, obviously you have to use Postgres. And also the second trade-off is if you're developing on SQLite and deploying on Postgres, there's always the possibility for a bug that appears because of the change. So you got to decide on that trade-off. But one way or the other, you need to have your database running. Now, one might ask, we have this huge feature set, and in previous homework we developed a very elaborate database schema. How does that reconcile with this idea of the MVP? Well, I think you can play it several ways. Okay, you can say, and I think each of them would be legitimate. One of them is we're only going to build the database we need for the MVP. The other one is going to be we're going to build all the tables, but just leave them unused, have them sit there. And the other one is kind of in between, I suppose. It's really only two. And I want to reintroduce you to one of my favorite slogans, which I think some of you have heard, not all of you. This is very true. It's a truism in building products, which stands for, anybody?
What's it say?
YAGNI.
You ain't gonna need it.
You ain't gonna need it. And okay, Joe, since you were so quick to the draw, what does that mean? What is the implication in terms of how we organize our work? Why does this matter?
In terms of the MVP?
In general, in life, actually.
Focus on, it's like building blocks. Don't focus on, oh, I want this really cool JavaScript feature where it's going to be responsive and this text box is going to pop up and
Yeah.
fireworks are going to explode and
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen's going to sing all at the same time.
Yeah.
But then, for like what's going on, the map doesn't work, or for us, our trade rules don't work.
Yeah,
Make sure.
okay, that's part of it, but there's another, that's absolutely right, but there's another very important part to it, which is, what?
No, I said he paints by picture.
He does paint by picture. George?
Well, as far as I heard in Agile, you try just to build what you need for the story and nothing more.
Yes,
So-
true, but, okay, I'll just answer, unless you want to take a shot. Huh?
You don't do what you're impossible.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to discover later on that the product goes a different direction. The thing is not necessary anymore. And this beautiful, big, complicated scheme that you designed in a hypothetical situation, when you went to build a product, was half of it was not appropriate, was not right. So YAGME is a really good, it goes right there with dry, don't repeat yourself, and NIH, not invented here. These are truisms, okay? So be careful when you build something in anticipation of a feature you may need later, because it's very possible you're not going to need it. So don't build it yet, because when you get to building it, it's going to be different, okay? And that applies to the database schema as well, as it applies to authentication. Yes, Devise is a great package, and when you have a huge system that has all kinds of complicated authentication things and wants to authenticate with Twitter and wants to do two-factor and send email reminders to change your password or confirmations that you got an account, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, Devise will do a very nice job and save you a lot of coding. But Devise is not a toy. I mean, it's a big, complicated machine. Sometimes you drop it into the car and the car just drives. Sometimes you drop it into the car and the car blows up. So maybe all you need is a bicycle. So that's the trade-off there. Yes, Devise is awesome. A lot of people use it. I have nothing against it, but it may not be the right tool right now. Okay. Obviously, user accounts, you're going to need to consider anyway this business about authentication, logging in. You got to think about the different types of users you're going to have. Am I going to have an admin user? Very likely you are, because that's you when you log into the system when you want to change something fundamental. So at the very least, you're going to have administrator account to log in to do administrator things, but you might also have user accounts, and you may also have vendor accounts or whatever. Now no, it's not. Your MVP may not include, like I mentioned about the Vaporator guys, may not include the necessity of doing the login. Well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because, I want to see a demo that makes the people watch the demo say, this team did something serious, something complicated, something interesting, and something worthwhile. And you can get all of those without ever doing a login, depending on the product. Okay. Work out your URL scheme. That should be much higher, as I discussed over there. Okay, that's really important. It's going to tell you what controllers you want. It's going to tell you all the other things. By the way, a little mechanical detail, which I spotted in one of the projects. Your GitHub your GitHub repo should look like a Rails app. Okay, it shouldn't have a Rails app in a subdirectory. It should be a Rails app at the top. So when I look in your repo, I should see a /app subdirectory. Now, if you want to put documents, files, notes, whatever else, that's fine. Just put a /doc subdirectory and stick them in there. It doesn't matter. And the reason I say that is when you get around to deploying to Heroku or using any number of other tools, if your GitHub account does not look like a Rails app, it's not going to work the way you want it to. That's just a little mechanical thing. Another little mechanical thing is I find it convenient to name my directories all lowercase without any punctuation or spaces, because again, if you stick it on a different computer, sometimes it messes up. So don't put a space, even just because your Mac lets you do it. Make it look like a Unix directory name. It just saves you trouble sometimes. Okay. Write tests. Again, let's not be dogmatic here. Okay. The work we've done from the book, shows you how to write tests on validations and so on, because they're easy, low-hanging fruit. I mean, they're clear what they do. They're clear what the test is. They give you a sense of how to write tests, but they're not the most useful. Okay. The most useful test, the place to start, and the place to start is find a part of your product that is an algorithm. Okay, let's go through each product and see if we can guess what a good. When I say an algorithm, what I mean is, because it's all algorithms, what I mean is it's not related to displaying things on the screen. It's not related to writing things on disk. It's displaying with some key business logic of your app. Okay, starting with Vaporator. What is your what is a good example of that?
I use the configurator.
The configurator, which does what?
It tells whether things are compatible.
Okay, right. Okay, so the configurator is one. How about Teachback? What's an example of an algorithm, quote unquote, in Teachback? Is there anything that's not related to the user, to the UI, or to the disk?
Probably the current sentiment, like the feedback calculator to see what the class.
Okay, good. The feedback. So basically, what does that take as inputs?
It would take the actual feedback, like the board confused following from
yeah,
each student,
yeah.
and then it would calculate like this many.
Okay,
this
so
way.
it's pretty simple,
Yeah,
but that's an
it's
example.
Simple, but that's probably the most.
Okay, how about you guys? Your product is called Real-Time Productivity.
We have a sorting algorithm
A sorting algorithm?
for the tasks. For the
That's it, it's sorting, but you don't have something more complicated to sort of decide when to schedule something?
Or it's
No, that's what we're talking about. As a dynamic priority.
Give it a fancier name. Dynamic priority engine. Okay, good. How about what's going on?
Those things we have are either related to the user or the view.
How about the thing that decides something about security or visibility or something like that? Is that a little algorithm?
That's just a flag.
That's just a flag. I like it. Simple is good. Anyway, so keep thinking. How about trade assist?
I think the first one is how to optimize
You should sit with your team.
the
I
query.
would, but I can't see. I don't have my glasses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Optimize the query.
Okay.
Yeah, because you might have some people, 100 people query on Google, but on different property.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to query 100 times on the same ticker, right?
Right.
You need to combine those rules and extract their common properties and query it
Right.
just one time.
Right. I mean, since I know a lot about what you guys are doing, particularly, I would say just a simple rules evaluator.
And this is the first part about query, and second part is about evaluate the
Yeah.
rules and return the result.
So the reason I ask this is because those are the right candidates to start unit testing. You can use a TDD to help you design those classes. So you can literally pretend the class exists and ask yourself, what calls would I want to make to it to achieve what I want to achieve? Without regard to how internals are with the data source, just what calls would I want? And then build from there, okay? And the interesting trick to do to really get the most out of it is to design these classes with no dependencies, okay? To try to figure out a way to design them so you can actually test them without ever talking to Rails or ever talking to HTML, doing HTML or anything like that. Write them in such a way that they really are little engines, and I can help you. There's some interesting principles. One of them is called dependency injection, which I won't get into, but if you want to Google it, it's a key kind of object-oriented design concept, which gives you an additional ability to isolate something from the environment. But that's where the testing pays off. So look for those opportunities. Definitely, I'd like to see tests in your Rails apps for sure. But don't feel like you have to go through every single view and controller. You know, if you want to practice, okay. But when you get further along, you'll see that you'll have so many of these, and many of them won't do anything. Now, maybe at the beginning you want to really make sure your validations are working because you're not sure you got the syntax right, or you want to make sure your one-to-many or has and belongs to and all that stuff is working correctly. You may want to write some tests. But I'm just saying, don't be dogmatic about following every single example as it appears in the exercises we've done. Those were exercises, okay? All right, I'm going to tell you about something really cool. Write this down, Active Admin. Active Admin is a gem, and here's what it does. It looks at your models. Let's say you have 10 different models, because there's all kinds of strange models also support things that are not even part of your business logic. And it builds, without writing almost any code, it builds essentially the equivalent of a scaffold for each one. So let's say you have a user, a properties, kits, a screen layout, a whatever, and each of these is an active model, you will get a series of menus automatically built with create each one of these things, view each one of these things, list them, delete them, and so on. And it's a really good way to get an instant and for free admin user interface to your product.
What's it say?
Active, what did I say?
Active. It's an active admin job.
Active admin.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's like a couple of lines of code in one of your controllers, and boom, you got the stuff. It's like magic. I'm giving you ways to show, because you will need this. You'll have tables in there which you don't know, which the user never actually sees, but when the thing breaks, you want to see what state it's in, and you can use active admin to do that. Obviously, unless you know, I'm not going to require it, but it's a really good idea to use Bootstrap as your UI framework, because it gives you a pretty UI pretty easily, very easily. And you probably will end up using jQuery for parts of your UI that are more active, like calendars and stuff like that. Both Bootstrap and jQuery are like a miracle catalog of UI widgetry. And whenever you want to, how should we display this X? Instead of drawing what you want it to look like, look at the catalog and see all the different ways. How do I display a map? How do I display a calendar? How do I display a traffic light? How do I display a drawing? Anything you want, go look there and see what you can find. Okay, and you get amazing. And by the way, these are tools that are used in professional applications. These are the tools of the trade. It's more important to you and to me that you learn how to make jQuery do cool stuff than it is for you to learn how to build the most elaborately hairy calendar yourself. Because that's a parlor trick, but real engineers don't do that. Real engineers find a tool and build on somebody else's work. Now, yes, of course, somebody built that, right? Of course, I'm not saying nobody built it. They were built by people, but there's amazing leverage. So look at those tools and use them. Obviously, design, I was there, it's not there anymore. Design your key views, design your paper prototype, and then design the views. But now when you're looking at your iterations, try to identify which views you want to do next, who's going to do them. Your iterations might say, this view is going to be half done by now and fully done by then, something like that, okay? Background processing is if needed. Who knows what background processing is in the context of Rails? What does background processing mean? Give me a precise explanation, other than processing in background. Come on. Yes?
For the UI.
In general. Because I want to talk about how to do background processing, and I thought first let's make sure we all know what I mean by background processing. Say what?
I can guess.
Yeah, okay, guessing is good.
So for our product, we need to show the tasks, so they need to be inserted in the background using JavaScript.
Uh-huh. What do you mean in the background?
When we add a task, for example,
Yep.
it needs to show up. So they're adding it somewhere else, but it needs to
Show up here. Okay. That's not exactly background processing. Yes, Bert.
It's automatic and there's no user interaction.
Right. Yes, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think in our context is done on the server side.
Yeah.
Without users' intervention, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are the kind of like the bookkeeping mostly kind of tasks that happen in the server.
Yeah. So I mean, a sort of a quasi-technical way to describe it is absent background processing. Everything that a Rails server does is in response to a request from the user. It's a GET. Eventually, a GET returns HTML. That's the whole life of the Rails server. Okay. If that's not enough, if you want a Rails server to do something by itself every so often, that's background processing. Okay, and it could be used like in what's going on. Do you have background processing?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Talk.
We need to have, so we're going to have the server side pull every 10 minutes from, let's say, every phone that's connected to Brandeis, and it's going to pull markers about that location, so we pull location data, and then the server has to then process based on the groups that allow for whoever, and then has to push those markers out to each of the other clients.
By the way, that's an algorithm that's pretty complicated that you didn't mention in your background in your algorithm question. I mean, the whole question of who do you push it to, who do you keep it from, thinking about scaling, because whenever you say poll everybody, they go, whoa, that sounds like it's going to be a scaling problem. So you're polling, pardon?
It's for the MVP, so we're going to do general scaling and then fix
Sure. No, I understand, but I'm just, anyway.
Yes.
I'm getting off topic. But yeah, so background processing. If you need background processing, the way to think about it is this, and I think I have the simplest way to start. Forget about views and controls and so on. Write a Rails class, it could even be a method on your model, that does the thing you want to do in background, but it does it in foreground. So if you call this method, it does it. It's whatever it is. Once you get that working in foreground normally, because you'll be sitting in IRB or in Rails console, and you'll be able to call it and say, oh, yeah, it did what it's supposed to do. Call it again, it did what it's supposed to do. Once you get that working solidly, now you put it in background. The way you put it in background is there's a option on Rails, the Rails command called Rails Runner. Rails Runner, let me just call it up. See who I have here. Just trade it, yeah, I think. No, that's not, yeah, it is, okay. So if I say Rails Runner, nope. Forget it. Oh, I know, I'll do this. So Rails Runner is a command on the Rails, it's an option on the Rails command that's going to take as a parameter a class and a method, and it'll run it. And the beauty is, if you think about it, that means that there's now a command line command that causes the Rails environment to call a certain method. So you can take that command and stick it in a cron job or some other way to invoke it in background, and you don't have to use any of the magic things. You don't have to use rescue or run later or any of those things, as long as, and here's the part I'm not sure about, which is that Heroku allows you to run cron jobs or something equivalent. But anyway, no matter how you do it, it's a very useful way to structure what you build, to say, forget about the background processing, just write a method on a class that does the thing you want to have happen in background. Test it in foreground, test it by calling it from Rails console, make sure it works, write tests for it, and then, in a whole separate story, figure out how to run it in background. So if I go in here, and I say Rails run, maybe it's runner, yeah, runner. Okay. So basically, you literally give it Rails runner, and you give it a method. And it could be, for example, user, like user model, user dot do background work. And dot do background work is a class method on the user model. So it would be defined in the code within the user model as self dot do background, and it's a bunch of code. And that code will be able to access everything in Rails, because it's part of Rails, and you can just call it from this command line. And then you can take this command line and figure out how to get it to be executed periodically in background. Typically that's done with something called a cron job. Anyway, I don't want to go deep on that, I just want to say there's a really simple way, and the right way to start with your background processing is that. Okay? Okay. Google Maps if needed. At least one product needs Google Maps. Does anybody else need it? Okay, so same product. Okay. Deployment to Heroku. That's at the very end. Unless you want. I mean, again, I'm not demanding that. I'm just saying you really don't need to do it until the very end. The Heroku is a service that lets you run your Rails app in the cloud, which means that once you deploy it to Heroku and it's running, you have a global, sort of a public URL where anybody in the world can access your application. And by the way, you can turn your computer off and it'll still be there. So Heroku is one of the key ways to deploy the cloud. Yes?
What's the difference between Heroku and Amazon Web Services?
Okay, so first of all, next week's Thursday at 5, Brandeis, we're going to talk about Amazon Web Services. If you're interested, Amazon Web Services is both much bigger and much, but different from Heroku. I believe, in fact, that Heroku is built on top of Amazon Web Services. Heroku gives you a very Rails-centric view of the world. So it understands Rails concepts, it understands bundle and DB migrate and all that stuff. Amazon Web Services, in particular, the EC2, which is the Elastic Computing
Yeah.
C, some other C, is basically gives you a bare Linux box to then install stuff on. So it's a lower level service. It's also a little bit less expensive than Heroku once you go beyond the free tier because it does less. On the other hand, it's got all kinds of things that Heroku doesn't have. I mean, it's just like an amazing suite of services. Okay, and then continuous integration and or deployment. That's another web service or set of web services. Both of them, I think, generally free for very small projects. Continuous integration means essentially running, monitoring GitHub whenever you push new code out to GitHub, automatically pulling it onto their server and running all your tests, and then sending you an email saying it failed or it succeeded. That's continuous integration, and that assures that, or lets you know whenever your GitHub account is in a bad state. It means nothing, of course, if you don't have tests, because all it does is run the tests. Continuous deployment is that, plus, if the tests pass, actually pushing it out to something like Heroku. So not only does it make sure it works, but it replaces the currently running version with the new one. Okay, and there's all services that do that as well. So this is a very fertile area of new businesses, and so these businesses are popping up all over. It's kind of like Code Climate, which is another variation of that theme that's more like continuous static analysis of code. But these things are popping up all over, and so you expected to see them come and go, succeed and fail. They probably will all have free options because they want to get people using their stuff. And I have examples for each of those. But I think that's late. And then, of course, anything else you can come up with. So this list is just my attempt to basically stimulate your thinking as to what kinds of things you ought to look at. Okay? And so basically what I'd like you to do, first of all, get ready for a demo of your paper prototypes, come up and explain them. And the ideal explanation, I'm not saying I'm expecting perfection, is here's what you see when you first go to the top level URL of our demo. Here's what it means. If you click here, you'll see this screen. Here, you click here, you'll see this screen. That's the ideal demo. So basically I want you to make a little performance, maybe more than one person from your team comes up, to explain what the product would do. Almost, although you will change it many times, what your demo will look like on May 1st. Between now and then, we're going to talk about what makes a great demo and how to design a demo that makes an impact. But we won't worry about that now. So your actual demo is not going to be this, but that's the way to think about it. Okay? Okay, why don't we go do that now? So come on up, who wants to go first? Yes, William wants to come first.
Yeah, it's on Piazza.
Pardon?
Piazza?
Okay. You want me to just do it from my computer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I just have the images of Piazza.
Okay. Oh, great.
I think our images get all out of order.
No, that's not you. Teachback. Okay. Okay. All right. I guess this is it.
That's it. There's the two sets.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Everybody, listen to Teachback. And be critical in a nice way.
Sure.
I know I will.
All right. So this is it's pretty much an extract from.
See what it's like?
Yeah, from our original.
You talk and they keep on talking and they're doing Facebook. That's what it's like. Welcome to my club. Go ahead.
Okay, so we slashed it to make an MVP. So we just ended up at the feedback level.
So when you first turn it on, what do you see?
You will see the first screen on the top left.
Okay.
That's our landing page.
Yeah.
We have a fancy slideshow here, which you will figure out what to highlight there.
Yeah.
And you can have a login box as well as a sign-up box.
So one good thing about this is that the first URL you go to immediately gives you a chance to log in and create an account. It's not a click to get to the copy.
Yeah. At the bottom, we're gonna have like useful links like about or help, stuff like that.
Why at the bottom?
Because we have other stuff at the top.
Okay, that's unusual. From
I thought everybody does that.
Unusual or usual?
It's usually both. I was gonna say it's both.
Which are the important ones?
I mean, the most important would be at the top, but there are certain things that do end up being at the bottom.
I think what's typical is
Yeah.
the most important things along the top and
Yeah.
everything else at the bottom.
Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
And so once you log in, it's going to take you to your profile page. This has changed a little yesterday. There's going to be a sidebar here with more like account-related options. But what you'll see primarily is your list of courses that you've created or enrolled in. And you'll have options to create new course. And we have on the right notifications from the entire app. So all the things that you need to be notified about from your relevant courses will show up here. And there will be your name right there at the top. We got rid of the refresh button. But when you click on that, it's going to take you back to this page where you have your profile related options. So this is accessible from anywhere.
What happens if I click on this?
What is that? That's just the logo. So you take it to the home page.
Which is what? If you're logged
If
in?
you're logged in, it will be this one. If you're not logged in, it will be that.
Okay, so really what I'm getting at is it looks like the face of the homepage do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
We didn't think about that yesterday, but yeah. I think that's what it is. You know, if you click on the logo, it will take you back. So if you click on the course, it will take you to a kind of like a similar looking page, but it's course based, not profile based. So you'll see a list of lectures for that course, and on the side will be course related options. And when you click on a lecture, if you this is for the students, by the way, it will look differently when you click on a lecture for an instructor. So if you're a student, it will take you to these three basic feedback views. So one of them is the engaged, bored, and confused. When you're engaged, you're not supposed to do much, but now we're trying to use that space for students to take notes, because there are many advantages, things about taking notes. Anyway, so
that might not be part of the MVP.
yeah, that's not part of
so-
the MVP anyway. So, but it's there. But you have to change that. So, anyways, so for a student, pretty much what you're gonna do in your MVP is be able to tell by switching between these three options whether you're bored, confused, or engaged. That's it. At a later stage, there will be more options for you to do in each of those stages, in each of those states. Yeah, so that's it. So that's you go from your login to your courses, to your lectures, and to what you can do in that lecture. And for instructor, it's pretty much the same. You'll have more options if you're an instructor, like to create new lectures within a course, and edit them and all that. We didn't show them here.
How do you get to that creating new course?
New course?
Yeah.
There, so when you log in,
There was a new button there somewhere?
there's a new course button
Okay,
right
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Which teacher?
We don't have this. We don't have that either because we don't have the side
Uh-huh.
sidebar. And the same here. But then, if you're an instructor, you click on the lecture, it will take you to this. Now we have more options for the instructor. But one of them is the feedback. You're not going to be giving feedback, but you'll be able to see summaries of feedback from the students. So you will have these two charts. This one will show you the real-time aggregate feedback from your students, in a pie chart like that. And this one will show you like the timeline of the feedback from the beginning of the lecture to what it is now. So you will see how those three states have changed, like every 5 minutes or so. So yeah, so that's all for now.
Yeah.
Pretty much just feedback.
Questions? Yes.
So I used this product last semester because I was in one of the classes that was, I guess, we were beta testing it. And I remember one of my main things was I'd want to go to Onboard and Confused and look at the chat logs. This is chat, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't bored or confused. I just wanted to see the chat. So I'd have to go to that and I'd lose the engaged thing. And there were also reasons like I'd want to use the chat and I wasn't bored or confused.
Yeah.
But I still want to use the chat.
Yeah.
I think that was changed. Yeah, there was an option when you are engaged to click on a button to see the
Yeah, it just
the,
shows
the
it,
chat.
You can't chat on it.
Yeah, you cannot. Of course, you're not supposed to chat when you're engaged.
But like, there was reasons when I was engaged to chat.
Well, maybe
It's
what
not
if-
really chatting
Hey,
either.
listen to feedback. Don't
I was gonna say
don't
maybe,
devalue it.
maybe then what since we were kind of just debating whether or not we wanted to do the note taking, what we could do is just have the chat available to everybody, regardless of their state. And the
Yeah,
state
I'm not a
would
big
just
fan
be-
of the note-taking myself, just because there's so many other tools, and before long, you're gonna be in a black hole of, I wanna put in images, and I wanna put in videos, and yeah, you know, like,
It just.
but anyway, that's
Yeah.
not relevant right now. A question I do have about the, sorry, did I?
Oh, no, it was just a kind of a general, how we could present it, sort of comments
Yeah.
I can make offline.
I mean, one thing to think about, and I'm gonna press all of you, if this is truly the MVP, and now I know what you meant by half the product, this is not exciting, it's interesting, but think about something that's gonna be like, wow, in your MVP. You know, I don't know what it is, but something that's gonna make the viewer go like,
Well, so I think honestly what it is in this case, I think what would change it to be more of a wow factor,
Yeah.
especially for you as a professor,
Yeah.
is if we reverse the way we present it.
Yeah.
And I think what we could do is present it first from the professor's point of view, and
Yeah.
actually while you're presenting it, we could be logged in as students,
Mhm.
and you could be like, you know, this is the professor, blah 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 blah. I have a lecture going right now,
right,
and we could actually
yeah.
have the feedback up and changing and show like this here's and then afterwards we'd be like, oh, and this is how the students are doing it. But
Yeah.
I think that might make it more exciting if we
So
can
think,
show
think
that.
in terms of, we don't have to solve it now, but, and I don't mean necessarily how the demoing, but some feature, like, you know, the big evaporator. Wow, look at this, they can actually configure these things, I've never seen this before. Think about something like that for this product, even in the MVP.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think-
And I'm happy to help brainstorm on that. Burke, what are you laughing at? Yeah. Yes, Burke? Can't hear you. I have to come over
Yeah,
there.
they have something that we don't have like algorithm
Uh-huh.
and
Okay, there's not an algorithm, it could be some eye candy. you know?
Well, I mean, I thought that was the point of the feedback, was that was supposed to be or at least that's what we discussed with Nick. He said that was the thing that kind of made the project
it is.
interesting to him. Was
Okay,
the
I
ability
mean,
to-
so maybe so. Maybe when it's implemented. But I think it's still a little bit, I'd like to see something a little bit like, wow. But anyway,
And
thank
for
you.
us, this is not only just a feature, but other features are built upon the,
Yeah.
the feedback framework. So,
Yeah, exactly,
So
yeah.
that's it. That's one.
The other thing I'll say is like, you know, take this to another level of detail for your MVP to make sure, not so much that you know what every button does, what the URL it goes to before you start coding. You'll save a lot of effort. I've
Yeah.
said this before. Okay, great. Thank you very much. No need to applaud. Otherwise, we'll waste time. Next, who wants to come up next? Yes, come on up. You want to use your computer or mine?
No, I'll use yours.
Okay, is it right in here?
Yeah, move. There we go. So ours is actually kind of papery.
Okay.
paper prototype.
I know. It's novel.
Who did this drawing?
Okay, that was Nerda.
I thought so, yeah. I was around and look at that.
So,
But it's good that somebody else is presenting it. That's it. Yeah, go ahead.
Our MVP is really the idea that you can kind of move around tasks, which is a little, it like dynamically moves around tasks, it's a little hard to represent in a static environment.
Yep.
So, but basically, first you kind of land on the landing page, you can like sign up or sign in, and you either sign up or sign in. And then over here, it kind of brings you to this first page on your first time that you like sign in. And it gets like your initial preferences, like when you like to wake up, what kind of person you are, just to get like a preliminary kind of view of the person for when we start actually dynamically scheduling things. Once you do that, you land on the main page, which is this calendar page. You've got your weekly calendar, a little kind of monthly calendar, and then this sidebar, which kind of stores all of your like tasks, your kind of to-do list per se. From there, you can make new events, which are kind of static, they just sit on there, or you can make new tasks, which kind of fall in this little bar, and then those are the things that kind of just dynamically move around. And it's as soon as you kind of create a new task and it gives a priority that it actually will kind of move all of your tasks around, because it tries to insert it in the right place. So I guess it kind of like moves around here, you can see some colors. It's gonna show kind of groups or priority. You can also, jump to your preferences from the main page. You can change kind of those preliminaries that we had before. You can change a bunch of other stuff that will actually affect how we rank what we do is most important for you.
So you can see that, for instance, like the black things here, those are events. Those are things that don't change. So those are your meetings, when you have class or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then these other things, like the purple and blue and green, those are tasks that move. Some homework you have.
So, right before you're an early morning person, so they scheduled it in the morning.
Uh-huh.
But after you change your profile to be like, oh, I like to work at night, kind of moves them to later in the day.
So it'll actually recalculate
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of recalculates
So
all the ones that you're tracking.
Is this the
every
same
time.
as that?
It's the same stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
It's a demo, so it's showing that when it changes, it actually
Yeah.
changes the.
No, I got you. I was just thinking about the forcing them to even think about this at the first moment is not necessarily a good idea because they don't really understand the product yet.
It's going to be extremely simple, like
Yeah,
literally
it's
you're
like
a
three
morning person
options.
or a night person or it doesn't matter.
I would suggest not having that thing, just saying pick a default and then allow them to change it like just
That
pick
is the
normal
default.
person. Huh?
That is a default.
No, but then
Well,
don't show
no,
the thing.
so they wouldn't even choose, I think
Don't
what
even
you're
look at
saying is
that.
they would skip that page, it would
Yeah, just log in, boom,
default
you're
them
there.
to normal, and then they could change it later. Maybe you can even prompt them to do it, like at some point.
I mean, I think anything between login and payoff is a place where somebody will say, this is too hard, never comes back. Miranda's unconvinced, I can tell from her face.
I think other people do
Just
it.
take it under consideration.
Do it when you try to do your first kind of thing. So in this case, when you try to create your first event, that's when you will show that menu first.
Okay, go on. Yep.
And of course you get delete a task and then it will actually rearrange things.
So you're meaning that there's a notion of selection in this list?
Yes, so you can kind of select things, it'll pop up. It's gonna show
What's the
both-
ordering there? Is that going to be customizable or fixed?
It's based on
Yeah.
due date.
We wanted to eventually for our MVP it's fixed.
Yeah.
We wanted to be able so that you could kind of set things like, oh, I want to do a task at this time, but that's not in our MVP.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and if I schedule a task that is, let's say this is in a week, I assume you're going to have week and month and so on displays here?
No, it'll only show the week displays. You can switch the views because we're not going to do daily views or monthly views.
Okay, so you can just scroll to the next week then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What I was going to ask is, what if this thing I just scheduled ended up on a different week than the one I'm looking at?
You can move to the next
But it's going to be confusing, because where did it go?
That's why you have it on the list on the right. So you can see all your tasks. It's on the right and on the calendar.
Uh-huh. And so if you click on the one on the right, it's going to scroll the calendar to that position to show it to you?
Yes, it should. It'll change the view of the calendar to that to where it is.
Gotcha. George?
Maybe I missed the point. How do you tell the system that you're actually working on a particular task or completed a particular task?
So that goes in this bar. There's actually a couple tabs. There's a tab for I've completed it, and then you just kind of move these things over to I completed it, and then it no longer tracks it. And then there's another one for there's an entire list of things to do, and the things that are they're so far away I don't really care about kind of scheduling them yet. And that's where everything lies. Then you kind of move them into this middle tab that it actually starts to track them.
So you're saying this little tiny thing has 3 tabs?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can show you what it looks like. It's not on the road.
Oh, it is? Why don't you give us the URL?
It's Roku and real-time-.
You mean slash? Here?
Yes.
Okay. Real what?
No, it's real-time-productivity.
Try again?
It's one second. Yes, sorry. It's realtimeproductivity.herokuapp.com.
Dot. Okay, so it's totally different. Okay, so it's.
And you don't need the S.
Like that?
Yep.
This is where the guy runs out to the computer, puts the CD in, turns it on, come on, they're back. Ah! Okay.
So just log in.
Well, actually, if you look at the tasks right there,
This is it?
That's what it looks
That's
like.
what it looks like. There's a.
Those are the 3 tasks.
Uh-huh.
And they get ordered in the bar.
When you create a task, it'll go into to do, but nothing will go on your calendar until you move that to doing.
Ah.
So most people only work on a handful of tasks at a time, maybe a dozen max. And so you don't want all your tasks on your calendar. So only the ones that are on doing go on the calendar. Once you check that you're done with them, they go to done. It works the same as Trello.
Yeah. Cool. I like it.
Also, I like the lag.
Laura Mitchum. Oh, Donna Kid. That's the other one. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me go back to your, just to see what we're looking at. And whoever wants to come next, queue yourselves up. Okay, I think, so again there, you guys have a lot of big plans, and I don't mind if you finish the MVP by April 1st and then take the month to do more, but go headlong into the MVP, and we'll get a chance to show this as the progress happens. Who wants to go next? Okay, how about what's going on, guys?
There's an issue. I uploaded all our pages to Google Drive with all the images from my phone, and I guess Google decided to completely throw them out of order. So
You can just click on them in the right order, doesn't matter.
yeah, it didn't even number them though. It just said
Whatever.
image engine. Yeah, we'll just say
Yeah.
yeah. I could go next.
Okay, come on, because
Yeah.
they're obviously not ready.
Okay.
I saw him taking pictures of his cards.
Yeah, it's on Piazza.
Okay. Okay, just
Yeah. All right.
show it off.
No, I had the pencil this time. All right, so this would be just the simple login page.
Sideways.
Yeah, I know it's sideways. Google really decided to mess with me.
Oh, it's
So-
Google's fault.
Yeah, it's my fault and Google's fault. So I
Okay, wait,
sign
wait,
in.
slow down,
Yep.
slow down.
All right. So this is our login page. User comes in with their username, their password, and when they click submit, it's going to direct you to what we're calling the dashboard. Just the header, we have the home, the about page, and the contact page. For our MVP, we're probably not going to have an about and a contact page. We might write a short blurb, but it's not like the exciting part where I think people will get crazy about that. They care more about the rules. So once you click submit, you're an existing user. You're brought to the dashboard where you're going to see a table.
I don't think anybody can really see this, right?
Yeah, I'm going to try and zoom in.
It's very hard to see.
Yeah. Better?
Can you guys see it? No.
No.
It's invisible.
All right.
All right, I think we have to just punt and do a better job next time.
Okay, yeah,
Okay?
I'll rescan them.
Yeah.
All right.
Or use a fatter pen or something.
Yeah, okay.
All right, next. Who wants to go next? Vapes?
We kind of did it yesterday.
Is it the same thing as yesterday?
Yeah.
But so that's the, but okay, I understand. I thought you might say that. My question is, are you Mac? Yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, I mean, we can show like a static, not
Remember, I
dynamic
don't-
thing with arrows.
What I would like to, the assignment was to work out the paper prototype for the MVP. So I'd like to know, here's where I go in. When I click, I go this. I mean, I know we've seen your mock-up and we've seen that stuff. Have you worked that out yet? Like, what exactly is the feature set you're going to have for? Oh boy.
Yeah.
For
Our
MVP.
in its purest form, the bare minimum
Yeah.
is exactly what we showed yesterday, which has no user logins, no preferences, no.
No ratings.
It's just a tool.
The configurator.
Yeah, it's just a tool. It's an
Okay.
online tool. That's
Okay.
our MVP.
This is just almost as bad.
So the first screen you see is
No, I don't think it's necessary. Okay, I can see it shorter.
is the login page, and
Yeah.
if you don't have an account, then you can sign up.
That's
By
the bottom. No,
going-
down.
Oh, down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
it
you
is.
can sign
Yeah,
up
sign
with
up
that, and you put in
No
your
Facebook account.
your name,
Sorry.
email,
Sorry.
password confirmation, and then afterwards you can add friends by putting in their email address. And so after you have your friends, you can.
It goes directly to the map after you log in.
It goes to the
Which
map.
we have.
So this is the map.
Okay. It's funny. There's a contraction there, but I don't know how to use it. So we won't try right now.
No, it's just that map now shows the three tests of each person. So there's you. It shows you the status. It shows
Yeah.
you the location, and you want to read it?
Yeah. So it shows you the status, the location, and a little comment, and also the group for the person.
Yeah, and then it shows the anonymous user and the active user as two different things. So in the anonymous user you don't have a name, but for the active user you do. And for the anonymous user you don't see the group they're in, but in the active user you do. So and also the anonymous icon itself is going to look a little more transparent than the active user, and that just shows the difference between the three that we expect in the MVP.
Okay.
And so on top of or on top of the map, when you click on friend groups, friends at the top, that button up there, it pulls this thing up, this little overlay menu where you can see all your groups, and you can select your own visibility or status for each group. So let's say I want to be anonymous for group 1, but I want to be active for group 2. You can do that right here.
How are groups created?
By clicking this add button.
Okay, so you have to click, so starting from the map, what are the buttons I have to click?
Starting from the map, you click friends.
Okay.
And then add.
It's an overlay, so it shouldn't be too much floating.
There's a friends, and then you see that, and then that adds a person to the group or adds a group?
It adds a group, and when you hit the group, you'll be able to add friends.
I got you, when you hit that group button there.
So when you, this display is just a list of all the groups.
Yeah, got it.
And what the.
So wait, don't move it. So when I click here, I see this.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so here you can see what each friend X, Y, Z, my friend X, my friend Y, my friend Z are doing, are here doing this. And then that's how you can edit it as well.
Okay.
You can tap on that.
All right.
And there's one last preferences screen, which kind of just gets you to the account settings.
Okay.
Which is up.
Great. Okay. All right. So I think the paper is in pretty good shape. So I want to ask. I think we covered everybody, right? Did I skip anybody? No. Okay. Good. I want to ask whether who thinks. Okay, I'm going to go group by group. Tell me. We're confident we can do the MVP by May 1st. We're confident we can do the MVP well before May 1st and do more, or we're not confident. Okay?
May 1st or April 1st?
Pardon?
May 1st?
May 1st is the showcase. April 1st is the weeks before. So May 1st is done. April 1st is a few weeks before because there's a vacation in there. Okay, so Vaporator, one of three.
Confident we can get, we can certainly get the MVP by May 1st, and we expect to have significantly more.
Current expectation for MVP is the end of March.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
we have April for everything else.
Hey, Amin, can you do me a favor and write down some notes on these commitments, quote unquote? Okay, so that's Vaporator. How about Teachback?
So, I guess.
No, say it.
Well, so I guess more my question is, should we talk to you about like a different MVP? Is the feedback should that not be our MVP?
Oh, I think I'd like to see a little bit more, something more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the feedback we can definitely have done before May 1st. Absolutely.
So
I
the
guess-
thing we saw.
Yes, that I believe we can absolutely have done before May 1st. Then I guess we should talk to you maybe or amongst ourselves and try to come up with what.
Some coolness. Yeah. Okay. So you guys definitely can have this by, let's say, April 1st,
Yeah.
and have time to do more for sure. Okay, good. How about what's going on?
We're pretty sure we can have, we're pretty confident that we can get the MVP done by May 1st. So the MVP does not include any source integration with like Facebook or anything.
Right.
So this is just kind of like a local app that you're using yourself. The only thing that worries us is getting the server side background processing stuff taken care of. That's the only big thing.
So for you, the MVP is what you can do as far as you believe. You may be able to be lucky, but essentially you think you're going to have that MVP by May 1st.
Yeah,
Okay,
mostly because of the background processing.
Okay.
It's a lot of learning to do.
Okay, sounds good. How about trade assistance? Yeah, what do you guys think? You're going to have it done by April 1st, so you have time to do extra stuff?
I think we'll have done by April 1st.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely before May 1st.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to grade you guys on this. I want to set I want to sort of do everybody hear what everybody says, to set a personal commitment, and also think about stretching. I mean, it's not very great to say, well, we'll just do the minimum. I'd like to see stretching. Okay, so basically you think definitely before May 1st, there'll be more than the MVP. Okay, how about you guys?
So we're gonna have a minimal version working by April 1st.
Okay.
And the MVP completely working plus an additional, I think, by May 1st.
Okay. Okay, so what's April 1st then?
Minimal working version.
Okay, and what then May 1st is more than that?
Yes, everything, all the other features we want to add.
Okay, sounds good. And by the way, when you look at what you want to do after, between, let's say, April 1st and May 1st, again, think about impact. You be a marketing person, right? Do the things that are going to make somebody go, wow. oh, now they can not only can they do stocks, but they also can do currencies, whatever it is, or maybe they show pictures. I don't know. Okay, and who did I leave out? Did I leave anybody out? No. Okay. Okay, good. So we have about 10 minutes left, and next week we're going to be talking about HTML, CSS, YML, various formats, and how to work with them, and what their purpose in life is. And then, as usual, by Sunday evening, you can see the homeworks for next week. Okay? So the remaining time, if there's no questions for me, yes?
Well, it's not really like a general question.
Yeah.
If we're going to be going over HTML, just what we were talking about this morning,
yeah.
Maybe I should just post it on Piazza, but general question.
Yeah.
Like a text box in HTML with buttons inside that drop down.
Yeah.
I was Googling it this afternoon. I really couldn't find.
Well, first of all,
anything
you
like
want to do that with Bootstrap.
Right.
Okay.
Even with the Bootstrap templates, I didn't really see anything like
Yeah,
that.
I think first of all, you guys should all work together on trying to figure that out, but I'll help you also to help you find it. Yes?
I have kind of a specific controller's question.
Okay, sure.
So
Everybody else, if you're bored, talk among your team about getting. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is to look at your 7 iterations and see if you can figure out what's going to go in each box. The last box, or put the box for the MVP in pick a box, iteration 6, whatever, and then work back from there. Okay? So go ahead.
So specific to our project, just because that's my preference.
Yeah.
If I have, say in my URL it says /courses/1.
Yeah.
In my controller, how do I reference that ID? How can I pull from my database that actual?
Okay, you get a parameter. Params. So it's a very standard case. It's a very standard case. So any example of controls will show it. But basically, well, let me just show you.
Yeah, I know that this is one of those things that was standardized. It's just I was thinking about it and I realized that I've gotten kind of lazy because current user is a default method that gives me the user and it works everywhere.
Right.
Once I get past users, I'm going to need courses and other things, and I don't have defaults.
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
So I'm in this. So I'm going to say Rails, new, scaffold, course.
Once I start creating courses and lectures, I'm going to need to reference.
Right. And what?
Oh, it's generate scaffold.
Thank you.
Can the default is like just we can make them like for
By the way, this is a general good technique to see, how is it done? Create a scaffold. So if we go to app, controllers, courses. So show. Let me just put a breakpoint here and show you.
Course underscore params.
Exactly. Yes. Put as params.
So that's, and I'd be able to say course.find course underscore params. And then
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
like it will be like the time frame.
Let me just show you here.
So I'm saying like it's still like just looking at the number of people, it's look at the change. If it's like people don't confuse like the similar and so just like
True. Very true. You got a good point.
Like so people like
I also realized that some of my migrations are in order, so that when I send it to
What's wrong with your migrations?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just that since I was kind of trying to get ahead of it, I didn't fully have time to keep your recommendation of keep only one.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch, and I need to make sure they're all in the proper order, so when they're run all at once, they still work. But break DB reset brings back the beginning, right?
Break DB migrate reset. Reruns the resets, the migrations from the start. Deletes everything and runs it again. Okay, so here's the. Well, anyway, where's my stars?
you'll be able to tell where you lose students, where you lose your students. where they got lost.
Wait a minute.
And if we can have an alarm sound, like,
Yes, sir.
So in the past, whenever I had to do background stuff, I always have the Ajax. What is the Rails equivalent for that?
Give me a second, okay? Why don't I see the stars here like I want to see? Show. Where are my stars? It's params. I mean, you can sort of see it here. Yeah. White finish. Oh wait. Couldn't find 68. Oh, I know, because of this. Because of this. 60. It's doing this. Okay, that's the trick it's doing. It has this set course. So I'm gonna just get rid of it. And the set course is set up, and you don't have to do it this way as a before action, because they said, oh, everybody needs to do this first. Okay, so if I go to set course and I put this in here, and now I do this. Okay, here's the line that I was talking about. So this is the contents of the hash called params that's set up by Rails before your controller action gets called, and it has a series of keys. One of the important keys is what the ID is. ID equals 1. If I changed, I won't do it, but by default it's called that. Okay, and if I had a nested route, in fact, let me just do that real quickly to show you.
I guess I'll also create a scaffold.
We don't want to have like
course class. Oh, that's not a good choice, right? Course. Oh wait, course lecture. Okay, so now I have 2. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to routes, and I'm going to make them nested. So do end. Okay. Now, if I run my server again, and I type in my browser courses 1/lecture 3. Okay, sure. And actually, let me make another change to show you. So I'm going to go.
I think you nested courses and lectures.
Huh?
I think you nested the courses inside of lectures.
Oh, okay. I did it backwards.
Yeah, which is fine, but it's just checking the URL the other way.
Okay. So now I'm going to go to lectures. Oh, that works then. Fine. Good.
Yeah.
So now I run the server again.
So that means we are required to make something.
And I change this around.
Around that time, we also have to like as soon as we are able to definitely go into
what is this supposed to do?
Now, look at this. This is what I wanted to show you. Now the controller, the params has in it ID, which is for the outermost thing. In our case, that would be the course, and then lecture ID is another key for the lecture.
So actually, so the ID is where you are right now, and the lecture ID is.
Yeah, the ID is the one that we're talking about. We're inside we're the course controller, so it's ID for course 2, but lecture within it. So it just puts those in automatically for you. And if you make reference now to rake routes, you can see all this documented in another way. So we have here lecture/ID/courses. This one here, you see it says lectures and then lecture ID here. That's where the name that you saw in the param shows up. So you can go back and see what it would call it here. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Were you? Who was just asking you a question? Ajax.
But no, it should be the
No.
They were nested backwards, but that's it. Yeah, no, I already have the nested person. I just wasn't sure how to pull that information out.
So, I was thinking,
board or computer that's like.
Can you let's
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, it's an interesting. Yeah, it's like it's an interesting.
What kind of are you only doing the
For example, something's gone up. The last minute, we probably said something like this. But it's been high the whole time. So something older than analytics on the spot.
If you want to
by the way.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You do the margin and create the views. How do you do the marketing? So are you courses now like this?
That's what I'm going to build next. Is how to, as soon as I can create courses, I think creating lectures is going to be pretty
So I've always wanted to change and add or change the three values. Board, review, and so on. You've always resisted.
What do you mean, like change what they're called?
Change the sentence.
I made one.
Board
I made one fine.
Allow them to
Yeah, well,
yeah, board sounds a little bit.
Somebody made one for
And then also actually, because he said, I did the schema he suggested, it was just the sentiment and the table. Well, or it was going to be, well, it would be feedback, but one of the values would be the sentiment, not just going to be integer. So then you have any number of different options.
So I think that's, I mean, it always makes sense, because as a teacher, I may not want those words may be so objectionable to me that I won't want to interrupt you. And it's such a logical thing to ask. I mean, if it's kids in high school, then maybe the words would be much different. You know, they were like,
it's also a simple thing.
Yeah.
Will you put that in the course options?
What you're creating the course, just have that be a part of it, how many different sentences, and then once they have that, it could be just
We'll have them as default, and then when they go to edit the course, they can add, also change the colors.
That's always been one of my pet peeves, if I should.
How that translates to what you guys
So, when we meet on Sunday, what do you do?
I mean, my big thing is courses and lectures, and until we get those things up and running, we can't certainly do that. So
it's just like a reconvene.
Think about it at the beginning.
Do it for the video chat or whatever, just to like, you know, for us to meet, see where they're at, and decide what to do next week.
Figure out how much time we have